Hey Jay, we got another episode here, and this one to me is kind of important in the sense that we're 4 years into this work from home phenomenon, since the COVID hit, right? And they're starting to get feedback about whether it's successful or not, or they should allow people to stay at home as far as productivity.
Can I vote? Can I vote?
We're going to have one of the top economists
from
on
this job.
Please.
Can I vote?
And by the way, we do this job. We can do it remotely. We
could. Zoom. We have. We did it very successfully. Why do I have to be coerced to go to the valley?
You like this?
To go.
What you said you like it. You like being in the same room with me to do this. You said you like
I know.
I'm
just playing.
But here's the deal.
Snickety.
The U.S. economy is now a work-from-home economy with 42% of the labor force full-time working for home. So,
yeah.
And as I said, after 4 years now, they've gotten some intel that says, and here's the headline that got us to go, really, no, really. Return to the office is pointless.
Really? No, really? Really? No, really?
So what you're saying is the research says productivity and sort of the joy of work has been proven to be much more advantageous when people work from home. But the businesses are saying, I don't care about the research. You're coming in anyway.
And we got one
Screw
of the top
productivity.
Guys, one of the top guys, because part of the report and the study they did is so damning about why managers want these people back. It's a control thing. It's more of a
how are you
control
going to
thing.
manage if somebody's not there?
But there's so many questions about this because it's a bit complicated and where the future's heading, because it impacts how cities are built, because people can move anywhere now if they don't have to be in the office, so they're leaving there. About working from home, life balance. I mean, it's a whole different thing when you can work from home and answer the door and get your Amazon package. Or you don't have to hire a babysitter for your dog or your kid.
Yeah.
Or spend 3 hours in the car driving from work.
Well, which takes into account also the cost of what it takes for most people to have to go to an office.
Yes, but on the other hand, this is not an entitlement. It's a privilege. Because a company can say, when did you employees decide, I'm not coming in anymore,
right?
And I have no say in it?
Yeah.
Because we feel, and then some companies actually shove it up their butt. I think I'm right in this, but Guggenheim, if we got to make Guggenheim check, this one made me laugh out loud. If it's accurate, I'm almost positive that Zoom is making their employees come to work.
Yeah, Zoom, I did hear that
But
too.
then again, that could be a tech thing. Rather than they're not Zooming, they're making sure we can Zoom. So I don't want to be so judgmental there.
It is is it not kind of historically amazing that at the moment this pandemic hit, we actually had this technology? I mean, Zoom was around before the pandemic, but no one really, video conferencing, nobody was using it really to
the
this
extent that they are now.
And then kabang, this thing hits, we're trapped in our homes. And this lifeline of communication and business
was incredible. By the way, and you know this, we used to do corporate gigs. I did more corporate gigs on Zoom with people, with Joanna Gaines, with comedians and stuff for corporate gigs, so they didn't cancel them, so that the company could feel connected. Right. And by the way, companies have conferences, they fly them to Vegas, so the company can feel connected.
Yeah.
So they can also be drunk and get affairs. But aside from that, it's a way for the company to get together and actually feel like there's a culture to the company. That, I'm sure, you lose when you don't have a return to work thing. And I also saw that mentorship suffers. So I'm dying to ask our guest, and this guy is amazing. And this is also one of these things where I never understand why these guys take the time to be with us. Nick Bloom is the William Eberly Professor of Economics at Stanford. He's the co-founder of Work From Home Research. By the way, WFH always sounds like I'm going to dirty, right?
I know.
But this guy, the recipient of the prestigious Frisch Medal. He got the Frisch Medal.
Really?
Yes, he did.
I was asking myself the other day, I wonder who got the Frisch.
Who got the Frisch? He got the Frisch.
Wow.
And he's got a Guggenheim Fellowship, not from David. Bloomberg ranked him as one of its 50 most influential. And that's when I go, and he had time to talk. I'm sure if you look at that ranking now, after this appearance,
and he's thinking after this, he's going, I got to go.
How did I go down to 75? I was 50 before I did the
He was going to, and by the way, he was going to come in, but he opted to do it over Zoom.
Yeah, because he said, what do I care? Work from home.
Let's say hello to Nicholas Bloom.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hey, good to be here. And I have to say, I've hidden it. I've hidden the medal, so they can't give it away next year. So
Oh, you're just being, so when people come, you don't want it out like the Oscar.
right.
It's in the bathroom, doesn't mean anything to me. Come on.
Hey, how did you know it's in the bathroom?
There you go. You're that kind of guy. So you are a revered, I mean, it's incredible, one of the top 50 most influential from Bloomberg. But I saw that your expertise is from work from home. And because we are, as I said to the intro, 4 years into this experiment, we're now starting to get some metrics about whether it works or not. The indication from a bunch of studies is it does, but there's still huge pushback from industry. So we're curious, where is it? Where are we right now with work from home? What do we know about it and how it's working, and will it continue?
So yes, it's here to stay. The other big thing is, look, you don't need to be in the office every day, but it does help to come in 2 or 3. So, the pushback is basically against fully remote. So if you're week in, week out, never in the office, it is harder to, mentor, harder to innovate, to kind of connect with other people. You also don't need to be in Monday to Friday, week in, week out. So this kind of cross wires, to be honest. What I see a lot of people is Elon Musk is talking about one thing and some remote advocate is talking about another thing, and they're just talking across each other.
So, and how do they,
that's interesting.
Curiously, how do they measure it? Because I got to tell you, the BS in all of this for me is, I worked in an office at a radio station, open floor plan. So for somebody with ADD, ADHD, who is that good for? I need to adjust my underwear, can't do it. I want a private conversation, can't do it. When did open floor plan become, oh yeah, that's great for employees because you'll hang out? I don't think so. I think that already was an intrusion. So if we're comparing work from home to open floor plan, where my friend can see every time I go to the bathroom and every time I'm at my desk, or if I close my eyes for a minute, I don't want that to be the starting point.
Yeah, it's funny. I had somebody tell me how they hated the open plan office. They said, look, the person next to me, she clips her toenails under the table.
Oh my.
She thinks I don't notice, but I tell you, I notice. I definitely notice, and I can't work when I hear that clipping sound. So yeah, look, that's one of the upsides of working from home. I mean, the big one people talk about is you don't have to commute. There's a fantastic study, one of my favorite research studies that came out in Science, leading journal, 20 years ago, published by Danny Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner. It asked people, evaluated what they like and least like doing per hour. Favorite activity per hour was called intimate relationships, which, you can guess what that's about.
Sure.
Second most hated activity per hour is working. That's why you have to pay people to do it. People don't work for free. Turns out the most hated activity per hour is commuting. People absolutely hate commuting. They hate commuting. Right. And so if you work from home, you save them a commute. It's about an hour a day. And secondly, it's peaceful and quiet. And that's why, people like it, but they don't want to do it every day. So, it's not like mostly they want to do it every day. They just want 2-3 days a week.
Well, that's interesting because, I have such a small window of reference because I've been doing what I do since I was a teenager. So I never get to work from home. I have to. But in my world, people are very excited to go to the studio or go to the location or go to the theater where we do our work. The idea that, going to essentially the office is a negative, is a drag in some way, just doesn't register for me in my world. And is that, other than the commute and the cost of it, do people report, does the workforce, not the management force, the workforce report that there is also a positive side for them, a positive experience from being back in the office, being back physically with their colleagues?
Yes, I mean, look, 2 things. One is more than half of Americans have to come in every day. So they do jobs that you just can't do remotely. Right. So in fact, the majority of jobs, and mostly they don't want to go in every day. But Jason, you're lucky that you're happy and enjoy going in. We survey people. We survey 10,000 Americans a month. And in fact, in the last month, we asked them, how many days a week going in is it best for your physical health and your mental health? Right. Turns out about a third of people say they're best going in every day. About a third say hybrid some days, and a third say being fully remote. So, there is no one size fits all. Some people find it's, me personally, I want to go in maybe 3-4 days a week. You want some quiet, you want some energy. Yep. Some people find it depressing being at home, and some, like the peace and quiet. So in that way, we're all very different, actually. So You thrive off energy, but there are definitely other folks that, like the tranquility at home.
And is there a reliable measurement of actual productivity in one versus the other? Not just what people prefer, but their actual productiveness.
Yeah, so there's a number of studies. I have a paper's about to come out in Nature that looks at about 1,500 people working in a tech firm. So for them, for example, we have lines of code written in the product shipped, performance reviews, promotions, sales. For hybrid, which is when they work from home 2 days a week, Monday, Friday, they're about flat. So, basically going in 5 days a week or working from home Monday, Friday, it's about the same. So you could think, look, you got more time at home, you save on commute, you're less tired, it's quieter. On the other hand, there's less face-to-face time, but it's a wash. You see in other data when you're fully remote, if you're working from home 5 days a week, productivity can be a bit lower. I mean, there's, again, some people thrive and they do well, but on average, it's maybe 5-10% down.
Well, okay, but now enters, knowledge work. How do you measure knowledge work? You got to sign, hey, Hal, you got to get your productivity up and you got to solve this virus problem by Thursday. How do you do? A lot of work is mental work, group work, inventing stuff. Like I said, knowledge work. How do you, when that enters in, does that mess up the whole productivity thing? Is there no way to measure that?
You're right. It's hard to measure. I mean, look, anyone that, manages anyone knows it's hard to measure. Look, you guys are both in creative industries. In a sense, I'm an academic. It is hard to measure this stuff. So you have reviews and you look at what people do and you interview clients and customers, etc. Generally, it's particularly hard to come up with new ideas remotely. Think of, you're coming up with a new skit, or you're writing. I write a lot of papers. It's just much easier over lunch. You're kicking ideas around than it is over Zoom. So that's why, particularly for knowledge workers, you probably do want 2-3 days a week. Interesting, a lot of companies, think of Airbnb, they have a setup now whereby you're remote, but about once a month you're meeting up for 2-3 days in like internal events. So you go to somewhere nice, I don't know, Santa Barbara or Pittsburgh, depends what you call it. You take your choice, Flint. And, you meet up for 3 days and, you bond and then, you go off and be remote again for the rest of the month. So that's another version that's become.
All I know is Airbnb never answers the phone. They never answer the phone.
What are you calling Airbnb for?
What? Because we go to book a thing at Airbnb. They go, call this number. And
why don't you book it online?
But Jason, that's because they're in Flint. You're ringing the wrong place.
Shouldn't he be doing this online,
I'm
Professor?
Online, but I have a question that doesn't get answered.
Isn't there a thing in the corner that says, my name's Miriam, if you have a question? Type it. I'm really AI.
I don't have a question.
I'm really AI. And mentorship. Is mentorship down in the crapper because of working from home? Who's mentoring me? Nobody's in my bathroom waiting for me to come in to say, you know what you should be doing?
Yes, I don't know who's in your bathroom, but I can talk to mentorship more generally. Yes, it's a big problem. I mean, the obvious point you point out is to mentoring, you need someone being mentored and somebody doing the mentoring, and it's both need to be there at the same time. And what you see is 20-somethings. I teach tons of students in the early 20s, and they all want to be in the office 4 typically days a week. They'll say, look, social, I can be mentored. Also, my apartment isn't great. I don't want to, I don't want to be at home every day with 4 of us sharing a small apartment in New York. The problem is it's the 30 and 40-year-old managers that are mentoring them. They're the ones that don't want to come in as much. They have kids, they live further away. And so that's another struggle. Like the CEOs are like, my God, we got to get you guys in on the same days. So yeah, the mentoring thing, that's the problem. It's the coincidence that's making it hard.
The other part of this, Nick, that I see, and you have to tell us about the evolution of what's going on, because I'm not up on this. Because it's like you said, it's here to stay. And I think I opened with saying 42% of the country, we are a work from home country now, okay? The tech, when I was going to open, we didn't have the time, of all of the stuff, to make your boss think you're working. They have mouse movers, automatic apps that move the mouse. I love if you don't have that, hang your mouse from a string with an oscillating fan on it, and it will blow the mouse so it'll look like it's moving.
Are you telling me, I have a question about this. So are you saying that there's a device at the office that is measuring how much your mouse moves?
Well, okay, so Nick, explain to Jason, because he doesn't know this, that if you sign your document...
Did you hear the dripping condescension?
It was condescension. Wait. It's condescension.
Is it just me, or was that the most
condescension, which means...
to talk down to. Yes.
So the fact that once you sign that document, they're watching your keystrokes. If you have...
But that's the computer at the office. What about the one at your house?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What do you? Oh no,
Nick, fill Jason in on how bosses can, how many ways.
I don't like you calling him Nick.
How many?
Call him
He told
Professor
us to
Bloom.
call him
I
Nick.
don't like you
Wait a
doing
minute,
it.
I'm the professor here. That's why I think I'm.
Okay, can you ask Nick, Professor Nick? Go ahead. Professor, it makes Jason uncomfortable when I call you Nick.
Yes.
Could you explain to Jason how much they can find out about you?
So look, let's go back. Let's go back to the dark days of 2020.
Okay.
In the dark days of 2020, everyone's thrown home. You're fully remote. It was chaos. A lot of companies had what we'll call surveillance software. So they're watching keystrokes. Some of them, they use the camera to take pictures of your face, or screenshots, really, really invasive things. But it was it was also backfired totally. I had a friend of mine, he said his sister worked for a big multinational and they were keystroke evaluating. And she said whenever she went to take the dog for a walk, she got her mum just to press the space bar a few times. It was like, ridiculous reworking it back out. So what has moved on? By 2024, that is basically gone. It's much more evaluating output. So look, Jason, if you're managing me, it's not much use screenshot me. I'm just going to take a photo of my face and just shove it in front of the camera.
Yes.
Instead, you want to say, Nick, have you done your sales targets? Have you written your documents? Have you met the clients, etc.? So what I would call output manage rather than input. So once you move away from it, it works. But yes, surveillance was a bad period.
When you say
It
was, it's not happening. It's not. Come on, it's gone. Companies are not
mostly.
surveilling?
It has mostly gone. It has mostly
because
gone.
of the
Yes.
because of the backlash of workers saying I hate you.
Because it doesn't really work. It honestly doesn't really work. I mean, look, if you're evaluating me on how many keys I press, you can go onto Amazon and get an automatic key pressing machine that will go 20. You're like, Nick, my God, the guy's typing for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How's he doing it? You're like, that's amazing.
And yet we're getting nothing.
Exactly.
Nick's in Aruba.
For 1995, I bought it off Amazon. It's like,
Wow.
Oh, that's good to know because
That's a relief for me.
It's just what
I have
the
to
assumption is. You're gonna cheat. You're gonna lie. You're working for this company, but you're gonna cheat and lie. So we're gonna monitor you all the time. That's pretty wild. It's good to know that that's diminished.
well, interestingly enough, about 5% of Americans are holding two jobs. Those that are working fully remote are holding two jobs of which neither knows. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? It's not obvious to me. Look, if you work like a demon because you're working 100 hours a week and you do 50 for both, in some sense it's good to you. I mean, look, that's a hellish lifestyle I wouldn't want. A friend of mine was saying he was hiring a new head of IT for a small company. He said he found the perfect candidate, was about to hire him. And the recruitment consultant sent me an email and said, wait, before you hire him, I got to tell you something. And my friend Jim was like, what? And the guy said, let me tell you over the phone. So he told him over the phone, he said, that candidate, he already has 3 jobs that we know about. So,
By the way, congratulations. This guy's the kind of guy I want to hire. If he can do that, it means he's organized, he's demarcates, he knows tasks. This guy should be running a company, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think 2 is okay. I don't think I'd hire someone that.
Open your mind, Nick. You're going to take the Frisch Award back. Come on, open your mind.
So Nick, you probably know New York. So in New York, on 6th Avenue in the 50s, that was office building central. And as soon as the pandemic hit, those buildings were empty. I go back. I worked in New York all summer long this summer. Those buildings are still empty. Are those buildings coming back? Are we ever going to have? Because at the same time, I see New York, they're constructing office buildings, and it just, I cannot figure out what is happening with the state of in-office business in a metropolitan area like New York. Is it? And I started to rationalize by thinking, well, maybe it's because during the pandemic, as offices went down the road, down the drain, people went, well, if we do come back, we're not going to come back in New York City. That's a ridiculous expense. We don't need New York City. We've proven that to ourselves. What is to the extent that what is the state of that infrastructure in a city as metropolitan as New York?
Sure. So, it affects anyone that owns apartment buildings, or your own house. It affects this. So offices are about half full compared to what they were pre-pandemic. And that looks like that's permanent. I mean, it's been that way since the end of 2022. New office building is almost totally ground to a halt. You do see a few cranes around. It's because those things broke ground before the pandemic. There's almost nothing starting now. What's the future? you're right. There's a lot of empty offices around, particularly New York and San Francisco, Seattle, because that's where there's a lot of tech and finance.
Yeah.
Those things, if they're old, so if they're built before about 1930, they'll probably be converted to residential. Why is that? Because if you look at buildings built before 1930, there was not much there's no electricity. And so these are tall and skinny buildings because they need daylight. And they're easy to convert because, you just put 4 apartments in them and you have some central plumbing.
Sure.
If they're built from the 60s onwards, you are basically screwed because they are massive floor plans, huge kind of bank-based buildings. There's only typically one toilet. There's nowhere near enough windows. So to convert that to residential, you can't really do it.
Wow.
Those things are going to lie empty for 5-10 years. And I don't know what's going to happen to those buildings. So tall, skinny, and, Greenwich Village type stuff is okay.
Yeah.
But, big, ugly 60s office buildings.
So they didn't figure out
they're not
racing like the Cushman and Wakefield and the big companies that own them. They're not racing to figure out how to repurpose those. I mean, it's going to be such a drain.
They're trying to, but I mean, think about it. Just step back. You have a building built in 1973, massive floor plan. Banks used to say, and a lot of financial services companies want big floors that are easy to work on.
Right.
Now you're like, nobody wants office building anymore. No one wants retail space there. What are you going to do with it? Well, let's convert it to apartments. Apartments have to have windows in bedrooms and bathrooms and kitchens. You need a toilet in each basically apartment. If you think about it, you just do the geometry in your head. It doesn't really work. Sometimes what they do is they sink massive shafts down the center of the buildings and rip it all out. So they got internal courtyards, but that's insanely expensive. So they're kind of left hanging. They're trying to figure out what to do with a lot of these empty buildings.
A friend of mine is into real estate and owned a big piece of real estate out here, a couple of buildings, whatever. And he said, you can't, and he was retail. He said, you can't sell to another retail because mom and pops are not making money anymore. It's just hard. But what he did is gyms, ceramic studios, workout studios. I mean, that would beg that, or shared office, a shared law office where you have 16 different lawyers with one person, pull your resources and move to that. Well, they're kind of they're hoping for a Hail Mary. A lot of these buildings, the value of them right now is the land minus the scrapping cost, which tells you, how deep into the red they are. The industries, fascinatingly, that are doing really well are leisure. So, Peter, you mentioned gyms. Gyms, I thought, were absolutely screwed in, summer 2020. I was like, who wants to go indoors to somewhere really sweaty in the middle of a pandemic? Turns out they're booming now. Why? Because of work from home. So I have another study looking at golf. Turns out if you look in golf playing in 2019, it's kind of quiet in the week, picks up on Saturday, Sunday. If you look at golf playing in 2023, it's jammed all week. Why? Because of people working from home are slipping out they can do
at
it
10 and 11 in the morning to go play golf. So golf ranges are absolutely minting cash. Same with gyms, same with pickleball, same with, leisure stuff. So
people are available.
Maybe people are around. So maybe some of these office buildings get turned into, big gyms, indoor driving ranges. The problem is there isn't enough of that to fill every office building in New York.
Yeah.
So
and
skinny ones go to apartments. The big ones kind of stay empty.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, my fantasy of what was going to happen is that it was going to be some sort of solution to the homeless crisis in these big cities. But these buildings are not readily converted to be inhabitable as living situations is what I think I hear.
No, I mean, so if you go, there are two major issues. One is fire access and the second is plumbing. Mm-hmm. So think of those big bank floors. If there's a fire, you got 400 people and there's, no windows, you can't get them out. And the other is there's only one typical bar. Think of, the last time you visited some office block. And that's the real problem. And they don't really know how to get around it. So you could put apartments around the edge and have this empty inside. That's kind of, it's a bit weird, but you could do that. Have storage, gyms. It's going to take a while. I mean, it's like, Game of Thrones. Winter has come for the, commercial real estate sector, and it's going to take 5-10 years for this stuff to unwind.
What other, as you brought up that study, I love when you light up and go, I'm doing this study, but what other related studies are you doing that we would never think that need to be done because of the work from home epidemic? I know that real estate, when we're talking about, that also we may empty out cities because when people are working from home, they don't want to drive in the cities. It's congestion, it's all that. So there may be the great migration happening. I don't know. So what other related stuff are you working on?
Yeah, so another thing that I call the donut effect, which is we're seeing about 1 million Americans have left city centers and moved out to the suburbs. So it's kind of obvious. I only need to go in the office 2 days a week. So 3 days a week, I want a bit of space at home in a backyard, so I move out. That has driven to house prices or property prices and rents in the suburbs skyrocketing. And in city centers, they've gone up, but they've gone up by way less. So we have Zillow data. You can see that very clearly. Interestingly, I have data from MasterCard. You see the same thing with consumer spending. So, of course, if a lot of people are now living out in the suburbs and working at home every day, they go out and spend out in the suburbs, but they're not spending in, Au Bon Pain or Pret-a-Manger in the city center. So our activity is, the city centers are hollowing out a bit. The suburbs are totally booming.
And what businesses are the most successful? The ones that are adapting. Like two-parter. Is there new technology that's on the horizon for work from home that's going to help us even more than what we have now, that they're foreseeing that we need, that I can't even anticipate? And what is a trend that maybe we don't know?
So on new tech, definitely. So I had a dinner about, I live out in Silicon Valley. So, you have lots of dinners with venture capitalists and, all these people come along and they're all excited, all the tech firms. One of them about 6 months ago was pretty cool. So this guy was saying, we're basically making holograms. And he said, think of the Jedi Council in Star Wars. That is what we're designing. And somebody had invested several $1 million into his company. So I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
So you should know, wait, I'm just holding you for 1 second. In this building where we are, if you look at, what is it, if you look up proto-hologram, they're doing holograms. They're so unbelievably realistic. And they've
just
used
about 20 feet
20 feet over the side. You can come up to it. Christie's is using them now, so they don't have to take valuable stuff, because you're standing in front of it. It looks so real. It's unbelievable. And Howie and other people, Shatner, have used it not to have to be places. They're doing conferences, all kinds of stuff, without ever having to leave their home. It's so real. So is this what you're talking about, or a different?
Exactly.
Wow.
So this is how it works. So Peter, you go into the studio, they spend an hour very carefully taking hologram pictures. If you slowly rotate around, they get a full 360-degree perfect view. Next time you're in a meeting, they kind of have it. The camera takes much of you, but they can just fill in the blanks from the pre-recording. Now, when you have meetings, it's literally like the Jedi Council. There's, kind of holographic Jason, a holographic me and you. And look, it's not as good as being in person.
But better.
You can't, tell whether he's wearing link spray on or not. But it's pretty good. And it means that rather than going to the office 2-3 days a week, we may be going in one. There's a lot of other fantastic tech, of course, but there's a lot of fantastic tech.
Here's what I don't get with that, though, honestly. I'm having a fine conversation with you. If you were a hologram in front of me right now, I don't think our communication would have been that much more enhanced or improved. Why I don't get the hologram.
There's a different hit when you go, because what they're doing is...
and I see
they have
exactly
a big box now,
doing.
so you could appear somewhere in a conference, see the people, take questions, whatever. But they also have a desktop hologram. At that point, it's so much preferred.
But do you want me to be 1.5 feet tall sitting on this table?
Picture,
because I'll do it.
I'll
do it right now.
I wish you would, like Jiminy Cricket. You're my Jiminy Cricket. Would your voice go up too? Like, hi Peter.
Hi Peter. Why?
Because the hologram feels different. If you're there, it really feels like the person's closer to you than this.
I am not of this world.
He liked it. He got excited.
He's excited. He's a very excited man.
I think
show me your frisch, mister.
This man's excited about being on our show. He's excited about anything.
I might even show you my fish medal.
You're showing us the fish medal before you go.
We're going to see that before we go.
So on the other tech, so the hologram tech, but are the companies who are working furiously to make it more improved and more productive from home?
So I tell you what, a lot of tech, you can't predict what it's going to be. So I'll give you another example. So take Dropbox. I listened to an interview with the guy that founded Dropbox, and he said, look, I founded this in 2009. At the time, only techies had more than one computer. So I just was aiming this at a bunch of tech nerds. Turns out Dropbox and Zoom are like the two biggest things that we needed during the pandemic, file sharing and video. So there'll be stuff that's being created now because the market for work from home products has gone up. There are 6 times as many people in America now working from home as there were pre-pandemic. So if I'm a venture capital company or I'm Microsoft or I'm Google, I'm thinking this is now a massive market. If I can get some new cool tech, I can sell it to a lot of people. So there's an enormous amount of stuff in the pipeline, which is why if you look 5 to 10 years out, work from home is going to be up. It's like a Nike swoosh. It dropped a lot from 2020 to now. It's kind of flat. Run it 5-10 years up, it's going to go up because of the amazing stuff coming down the pipeline.
And companies are embracing it. They're getting it. They're understanding what their company is and how their company fits into it. Do they bring in people like you to consult and say, should we be 2 days a week? Should we be 5 days? Should we be 4? How should our hybrid work? Do they hire you to come in and figure that out?
To talk to some, I'm not trying to put a sales pitch here. I tell you, my advice lasts about half an hour, and then beyond that, I hand on to someone else that's an expert. But look, what I would say is 90% of American companies are on hybrid. Why are they doing that? Because it's profitable. The reason it's profitable is it doesn't affect productivity, but it keeps employees happy. So you see quit rates are down 10, 20%. So look, I'm involved in a few companies, and they're hybrid. Why? Because you're about as productive as your work from home Monday, Friday, but you're much less likely to quit. And every person that quits is expensive because you're going to go out and hire somebody else, retrain them, get them up to speed. Fully remote is different. It maybe lowers productivity, but it has some big upsides that one, you don't have to pay for office space, and two, you can hire somebody nationally or internationally. So fully remote, maybe the person's 80% is productive, but they cost 40% because you're hiring them in Brazil. Those are the two offers.
Is this another upside? What if from remote work, what's going on with HR issues? Gone up, gone down, stayed the same? Are there new ones that we never thought of?
And are they at home?
It's funny. I have a paper in a work pipeline right now. It's called The Rise of HR. I'll just give you a nerdy fact. So companies put out, all public listed companies in America put out something called the DEF 14A statement. Sounds very boring, but it lists the pay of the 5 highest paid execs in the company. So we've been delving into them. And the question is, who are they? Always the CEO, always the CFO. Who are the other 3? Turns out, if you go back to 1992, the beginning of the data, no one from HR. No one from HR in 1992 made the cut for the top 5 highest paying person. If you run that over time, it's gone up and up and up. It's up to about 16% now. Why? Because HR has become really hard and really central. So think of things like DEI, the pandemic, lockdown, work from home, Me Too. All of these movements are hard. They involve HR. So HR used to be in the 90s was like payroll, compliance, pension stuff. Right. Now it's a lot of stuff for the CEO, and it's stressful with lawyers. And so these folks are getting paid more. So, they're up. I don't know who's out. I think operations managers are out, these kind of more functional capital type activities. But HR has become, more stressful, but a better paid position.
But I'm trying to even think if there are, I don't want to go there, but we all know that there have been unfortunate incidents on Zoom-like communications where people forget for a moment that they're
on a meeting and they drop their pants with associates.
I'm wondering if the kind of unintentional triggering or the office flirtations that would get people in trouble, have they decreased due to the fact that now most of this communication is via remote?
It's a good question. I mean, it is harder, but probably not impossible to harass someone on remote. I don't have good data on that. Certainly, look, companies are much more sensitive than they were in the 1990s.
Right.
Yeah. HR has become, I wouldn't want to do it. It's like so stressful, and you're dealing with a lot of these problems. Because you also seen all of these things about people firing people online, which is horrible. That old movie Up in the Air with George Clooney.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to lay someone off, tell them to their face, give them the reason, it's just like
so okay, whoa. So I worked for my first radio station in LA. And we didn't get along for a year because corporate hired me and local didn't. And this guy was a pain in my ass the whole year. And they called me because I knew it was over. He was going to fire me. And he said, we'd like you to come in. And I said to him, if I got to drive in LA traffic an hour and a half to come in for you to fire me, I'll set the entire building on fire. Just fire me now because I never want to see you again. It's fine. I give you license. He went, you're fired. He said, it's the first good thing you've done in the year that I've worked here, you ass.
If he was on his game, he would have said, we were going to talk about the new positions and increased salary benefits, but if that's how you feel.
I just remember going, you asshole. Like, I'm going to drive an hour and a half, sit down. No, tell me now. I'm standing in a phone booth. Just give me the friggin' answer at this point. Before we go, and know that you're digging out that Fisher word. What other paper? Every time we bring up something, you go, I have a paper going on. How many papers you got going? Wow.
A lot. That's why the Fisher Award is staying here. It isn't going anywhere.
You are really busy.
I'll tell you another one. Tell you another paper then that's pretty fascinating, which is I'm working with a company that has GPS data. So I don't know if you're aware, but every time you drive in your car, if you have GPS, which pretty much all cars do now, even if you are not using it, it's measuring it and it's transmitting back to the manufacturer, and they collect the data and anonymize it. So I have a BMW X5, it's 6 years old. I never use a GPS, I use my cell phone, but I know. They anonymize and sell it on. So we have millions and millions of journeys. One of the other fascinating things is we're seeing this rise of super commuters. So that these folks that are moved out to the suburbs, they're now going into the office maybe once or twice a week, but they're driving like 100 miles. I mean, insane amounts of distance going in and out. The other thing we see is because of work from home, traffic volumes are down. And it's a gift from, the work from homers to the rest of us that are commuting. So speeds, for example, into New York are about 10% faster in the morning commute than they were pre-pandemic, just because you've cleared the roads.
Still,
a lot of people that aren't going in.
Anecdotally, I'd like to push back on that and tell you, no, they're not.
Yeah, LA sucks, dude. It's
I don't know about New York. Los Angeles, we're not going anywhere.
Still as bad. Well, you were a joy to have. Thank you so much for coming on. You really, you know your stuff, and what I love is that you're that excited about it. So your students must be excited about it when you teach them.
Thanks so much for having me on, and I'm going to go move my Frisch Award to hiding place because it sounds like you.
What is it? Okay, if you had to guess, Jason. So the Frisch Award.
I'll give you a hint. It's not buried in the garden anywhere but there. Just
all right. Well, let's see.
What
if we can get close.
What do you think it looks like?
What is
that
What's
what you
the Frisch Award?
Okay.
So the Frisch Award is for.
Yeah.
How do you? I want to get a specific medal. It's hard. The prestigious Frisch Award. It doesn't say the medal. What is it?
All right, I'm going to go for it, just based on the name, the Frisch Award. All right, it's got a loose. I think it's very similar to the Tony Award. It's got a lucite base, a little plaque on it that has a little announcement and who it's for, and then it's got. I'm going to imagine like a sort of a rounded disc held in some sort of structure, like a gyroscopic
that says Frisch.
Structure, and that it's about yay tall and weighs about 3.5 pounds.
Okay.
How close?
Wait.
You have an idea. I'm
now
sorry.
I apologize because this is not. No one would make this, but this is what came to my head.
Right.
Would be a guy holding a book. Napoleon Frisch would be holding the book and studying.
Napoleon Frisch.
While he is sitting on the toilet, showing that even from here, I constantly
I'm productive.
I'm productive. So which one's closer?
You know what? I'm not going to tell anyone because the thousands of people listening to this podcast are now going to break into my house trying to find it. I don't want to give them a hint as to what it might look like.
Is the family proud? Were your parents proud of the Frisch Award at least?
They were. The weirdest thing is I'm on the committee this year to award it because they get past winners. So this is a very sensitive topic at this point.
Yes.
That's great. So we will be. You got to call us when you give it away this year. But you're gonna cry. You're gonna throw a tantrum when you have to hand it over. Or no?
I'd give you one hint. It's extremely heavy. So if I throw it, for sure.
Well, you're gonna have to peel the Frisch Award out of
more like an Emmy, and that's why I had no reference.
Because you never
point.
saw one.
Yeah, right.
Jason has a daytime Emmy, but daytime.
We don't talk about that. I also love that he thinks we have thousands of listeners to this podcast. I think that was very nice.
You know something? Why do I even get up and get dressed?
I don't know why.
Why do I do any of this? Why do I do any of this?
And they listen from home.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And seriously, congratulations on the award. Congratulations on the 50 most influential. And congratulations on being so prolific.
And for keeping an eye on this stuff, which I think is going to become we're going to need to know more and more about this because I think this revolution is far from done at this point.
Yeah, it keeps growing and we keep learning new stuff. So thanks.
Great. Hey, Jason, Peter, thanks so much for having me on.
A great pleasure. Well, what do you think? We do it remotely from now on, right? Why not?
Yeah,
what are we coming in?
Laurie's spitting blood. Listen to it. Look, I heard the laugh. Through the wall.
Yeah, well, I booked the studio all the time. This is where we should do it. You guys should stop talking about it.
We don't need to book the studio. We don't need the equipment. We don't need the guys. We don't need the thing.
I like it. Wow.
You like it?
You were quick.
You like it? You like commuting in? You like the commute?
How big?
How long does it take you to get here from your house?
Half an hour, actually.
Half an hour. Takes me 40 minutes.
Wow. Whoa. What a
40
sacrifice
minutes
to do all these shows.
We could fit another whole episode in.
We get to see how. We get to see all these other. Gosh.
We get to see Howie. That's your
we do. You know what we do. Here
what are you,
Laurie,
3?
what I say to Jason.
I get to see my friend.
Here's what I do: is I say to Jason, "We'll discuss it." So,
all right, fine.
And he thought
like
he's
that.
a major dude, another major dude.
No, of course.
I'm doing this paper.
Why are you
I'm doing that paper.
Why are you surprised? We have thousands of listeners. Of course,
I'm
we
shocked
are
when
able
Laurie
to.
calls in and go, "Yeah, okay, bye." It's pretty amazing.
Let me ask you a question. So here are things that now can be done remote. You tell me, better or worse?
Guinness World Book of Records.
Better or
Joey
worse?
Chestnut from home.
All right, ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Remote medicine. Happier with that?
It's happened. I have no choice at this point. Yes. Yes.
First
in
of
one
all,
way.
I know many doctors that go, I won't do remote. I just have a question.
yes,
is
in one way.
Is that a thing I should come in for?
Absolutely.
That's a thing I want to.
Well, I can tell you that.
I had to go in,
They
but
can
I mean,
see-
they won't go. I just want to go. Just can you bring
You
them
always
to the
go to
screen
the
for a
negative.
second?
How about this? Remote medicine, where you could never see the specialist because he's in Cleveland and he's on with you. You send him your stuff, and you get a consultation with a doctor who you would never get to meet, who's the primary guy in your area that you need to talk to. So there are pluses and minuses.
What was wrong with the phone? I couldn't call him on the phone.
You can see the guy. They can
What do I need to see him
Oh
for?
my gosh, you are.
How does that help me? That's like the hologram. How does having the little hologram on my table as opposed to the guy on the screen?
I am so glad that you're a little acting thing and you're not a visionary.
You have cancer. Same thing if I can see him
Thank God
or
you
if
don't-
I'm on the
you don't
phone.
impact my life.
Remote teaching and learning.
Yes,
Better
great,
or worse?
great.
Great?
Because you have kids who can never get this great teacher. You can get a course from Harvard.
Right.
Watch a Harvard teacher teach.
Fantastic. You know, they did it all through the pandemic, and test scores and attendance went down, dropped right in the
Because
toilet.
It was new. It was
Where the
forced-
Frisch Award is.
It was. It was new. It was untested, and they didn't know how to do it.
They still don't.
I think they're getting better and better at it.
That's what you think. Remote therapy. What do you think of that? Let me suggest you begin it.
Remote therapy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I see whether they're sleeping or not while they're listening to me?
Yes, you can.
Because the guy's always asleep.
How about remote? Well,
Have you ever
this
a
is-
therapist that when you're done, you do this whole spiel, and you've really opened up, and they go, "All right, let's continue next time." And you know he was doing his bills.
No, that's never been my therapist. There's a reason I've been in therapy 20 years. She's putting on a good show.
Wow. But wait a minute. My therapist is great. Well, why didn't she get you out in 10?
I came back. I was out in 10.
All right, fine.
I went away and it didn't
How about
stick.
5? How about 5?
Remote gaming?
Yeah, well, that's a given.
Yeah, that's a given.
That's a
Remote warfare.
It's happening, drones and all that. Rather
It
sending
is.
Troops.
And I think, frankly, there was a Star Trek episode about this.
Oh, was there?
Yes, there
you
was.
relate everything to
Yes.
Star Trek. Okay, and what
There
did
was a
Kirk
Star
say?
Trek episode where a war that had been going on for generations was being conducted by computers. It was remote. And the attacks were all computer simulations. But if your city got destroyed by the computer, it was up to you to report to an annihilation center to be killed. And Enterprise shows up and goes, "This is nuts." That's why you have a war that's
and what
been
did
going
Kirk
on
do
for
about it?
generations. He pulled the plug on the computer because you know that no interference thing.
Can I ask you a dumb question? I've been asking you this all the time.
Sure.
Why, if they can beam up from anywhere, did they have to always go to the room to beam down? They could beam them from the deck.
Oh, to the transporter room?
They always go, let's go to the
They could do
transporter
it.
and beam down.
Yeah.
How about just beaming down from here? Why do I have to go through? What do we even need a transporter room? You're beaming me up from a zoo, from another planet, from 1846, whatever. But I got on the ship, walk down the hall, take an elevator, get down to the room, and go down that way. Why? If we have the technology to beam me down, you can beam me down from the men's room. Why do I have to go to the transporter room? Makes no sense. And then you stand there and you go, oh.
If you want to be in a group, if you want to go together.
Your answer was there's no reason for it.
There's no
Thank you
good
very
reason.
much. No
Last
reason.
one, remote romance.
The answer is they
Yeah.
paid. Well, we paid for the transporter
That's
room.
right. We're going to use the transporter room.
Go ahead.
Remote romance. Now think about that. There are people that are having long distance relationships, and they're really being conducted. You know, it used to be
Are
love
these
letters.
the ones that
but
ask for
now
more
it's-
money so I can support
No,
my
I
kid
don't think they're
and
the
get
ones
out of
that ask
prison?
for more
No, I
money.
mean, you know how many of those there are, which are really scary. Remote romance. The weird thing is, romance, you usually got to see the person on a date or whatever. If it's remote and they're that far away, the obstacles you got to.
But for some people, the romance is going better because it's only seeing each other
it's
on a
not really
screen
romance.
and
Then
having
it's not
a-
really
yeah,
romance. It's
yeah.
fantasy romance.
Yeah. Interesting though, right? But I believe our world is going to become more and more a remote experience as we don't leave our homes to go to work. We don't leave our homes to go for our entertainment. We don't leave our homes. If this hologram thing comes and you go, let's go to grandma's for the weekend, and you holographically put yourself in there, you know, I think it's a trend that I worry about, because what do I do for a living? I bring people to where I am,
together.
and yeah, exactly.
And yes, do you want to know what I believe?
What do you believe?
I believe for every
I don't
drop
wanna
of
know.
rain that
No, go ahead.
falls, I believe that for every drop of rain that falls. You want to finish that sentence?
I believe the children of the future. Mr.
David
Guggenheim.
Guggenheim.
But listen, Grandma is never gonna be remote Grandma. She's like, I can't get the hologram to work.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
The hologram.
I can see only the
Can
bottom
you
half of
see
your
me?
body. I can only see your testicles
Are
and
you
your feet.
seeing through me? Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's not working for me.
Right.
All right.
It doesn't look like you. By the way, did you have to wear those pants in the hologram? Go ahead.
Not the cargo shorts. Why do they never follow the prime? It's the prime directive.
Yeah, no, that's not the way
prime
Kirk
directive.
rolls. That's not it.
Right.
It's like the Kobayashi Maru. He changed it. He re-rigged the
He's a
program.
cheater.
Doesn't like to lose. That's why you like him. That's why he's the best captain. All those other captains, no.
No one else on
Sorry.
the ship liked him, but that's okay. This is a guy who's going to say he's going to travel through time and space to solve problems. Meanwhile, the crew behind his back is plotting every day. How do we kill him and not get caught?
Well, you're trying to take Scotty's job away. He's like, I have one job.
Yeah.
This is the guy.
No, Scotty needs to be
This
in the
is the guy
transporter
that
room.
you're
And
sending
Peter's
out-
making the
Yeah.
point that nobody
These two
else
planets
needs
hate you. You go, can you solve this problem?
Yeah, sure.
Who wants to come? Oh, screw you.
it.
Up
Yeah,
yours.
right, yeah.
All right. I don't know if you want to hear it, but I got Forbes.com has the 10. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about remote working. We're talking
Yeah.
about all these things. How about the 10 most dangerous jobs? The ones that actually could kill you.
Sure.
All right. Yeah,
I think I know what, because some of them are.
We didn't we
right.
do an
Underwater
episode?
welder. Isn't that underwater welder?
Underwater welder, John. We know two of the people. Human cannonball, a guy who sets himself on fire.
Right.
We know two of them.
Didn't we do this? We did this.
Did we do that?
Yeah, we did it. Wait, I bet you we
we
did
do
it.
it?
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Most dangerous job, John. Human cannonball. Hello, 3 shows a day. Remember? Ring a bell.
I got backup.
Guy who sets himself on fire nightly.
Do you follow our show?
I don't. I only listen to each episode like 10 times, and then I forget how it goes. How about
Yeah.
the top 10 employers in the United States, which
Ooh.
as rated by Glassdoor.
Oh, okay. Should we guess?
All
You
right.
think you know any two of them, Peter?
It's got to be Apple. It's got to be Microsoft. It's
gotta
got
be
to
Amazon.
Amazon. It's got to be
Walmart.
Walmart.
Walmart, you think?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. I think so. It's a retailer.
Coca-Cola? No, probably not. That's all
Google?
automated. Google. Yeah, it could be Google. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm actually
FedEx?
going to switch my list to the worst companies because that's the ones you're talking about.
All right.
Number one, and this one is as measured by.
No, I'm going to switch it to the worst smelling companies because you guys got that too. So
I want to make you feel that your guesses are good.
Go ahead.
This one is compiled by Resume.io, and it calculated the worst places by how quickly people left.
Okay.
The average tenures of the employee. Number one is Apple.
oh,
Really?
They're in and out.
Really?
Number two is Amazon. I think we probably could
Wow.
see that. The
Yeah,
warehouse.
yeah.
Number
And-
3 is Meta.
Yeah, sure. I'm sensing a theme.
well,
Yeah,
they're also
well,
the biggest. They have the biggest because you have volume, you have turnaround. Yeah, well, yeah, it
Don't
makes
make
sense.
excuses.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. Some of them are who knows what. Tesla is number 5.
Really?
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Salesforce.com number 8. Netflix number 13. PayPal is 19, and Alphabet, the parent company of
Yeah.
Google, is number 20. So there
Wow.
you go. Yeah.
So it seems like the high tech people can't, and the
Well, they
mass
probably get a better
delivery
job
people.
because you get higher trained. You get better. You know, you're always looking for better gigs. You know how to do that online and cheat while you're working on the other job.
But they're losing. There's the scooters, don't they have like scooters and?
By the way, we should mention. We should go into that one of these days.
Why
remember
did the Segway go out of it? I like Segway.
Forget that.
Yeah.
Remember all of the scooters that were going to take over LA and everybody's going to do that?
Yeah.
It was like, boom,
Yeah.
big thing, and then
Yeah,
gone. Is that
nothing,
everywhere
gone.
where they're done? It's over, kind of?
All I know is Segway. I've gone to 3 cities around the world where the first thing we do is take the Segway tour.
Yeah, that's it.
And
That's-
it's the great. It's great.
So
I
they
love
sell
it.
60 to every city for their tourists, and who else is riding a Segway?
I
Honey,
would
I'm
ride
going to
a
the
Segway.
store.
Why would I get on? Not to denigrate a company, but like Bird makes the little scooters.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They're not around that much
Why
anymore.
wouldn't I get on a Segway? What is the Bird doing?
I think
that's
because
so
the
much
Segway, you
more-
got to hold them with your hands. How are you carrying packages home?
How are you carrying
your
them
head?
on
On
a
your head?
Bird? It's the same
Obviously
thing. You
not
need
either.
the little. You
Obviously
need the
not
little
either.
thing. It's a
Let's find
scooter.
that out. Let's do a show on that. Yeah, sure we will. Okay, thank you.
Well, ladies
By
and
the way,
gentlemen.
working remote is great. I don't know what anybody is.
Yeah, well, exactly, right?
Yeah, it worked out for us well. You had to go through 9 lists to find one that we could use.
I hit it. Well, all right, 3.
Companies with an
But I had them.
with the owner of
Companies
fish.
with a Y.
Oh, David, you're the best. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Professor Bloom. It was a lovely guy, and that was very
very
interesting. And I'm sad to see that there's just empty buildings sitting on 6th Avenue in New York City, and there's no real hope of them coming back soon.
Let's break the code.
Let's see if you and I can figure out what to do.
Bowling alleys.
Yeah.
He needs one bathroom and a long corridor. All right. Obviously, we're not the visionaries you're looking for.
No.
So, and if you listen to the show, you kind of know that. But thank you.
If you're
Jason,
among the
thank you.
thousands.
Oh, you know what? Up yours. Up yours. It's enough already.